Welcome to This Dementia Life, created by Dementia Action Alliance. Our website is daanow.org. I'm proud to be your host, Chuck McClatchy, and I live my dementia life with Alzheimer's disease. During This Dementia Life podcast, we will have conversations with people living with dementia and the amazing people that care about us. My guest today is Cynthia Huling Hummel, who is an advisory board member at DAA, an amazing lady, an amazing advocate, and is probably one of the smartest people that I know. Cynthia, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and, kind of tell us a little bit about your life.
Oh my gosh. Thanks, first of all, for inviting me on your show, Chuck, on this show. And thank you to all who are tuning in. I'm Cynthia Huling Hummel. I'm a retired Presbyterian pastor. I live in upstate New York, a town called Elmira, New York. And I just celebrated my 25th year of my ordination anniversary as a pastor. I didn't start out life thinking I was going to go into the ministry. I had a very interesting journey. But I think what I'll do is pick it up when I started noticing problems with my cognition, because that really changed the trajectory of my life. I was a pastor at a church in Lyons, New York, a Presbyterian church. It was a busy little church for that town. And we had a lot going on in that church. We had a food pantry and a lunch program, and we did a lot of community outreach. I was active in the fire department as the fire department chaplain, busy with the interchurch council. And I started to notice and became aware. People pointed it out. Sometimes I didn't recognize them on the street, or if somebody came to my office at the church, sometimes I didn't remember people's names or how I knew them. It was a little bit of a panicky moment, because people come to their pastors to tell them all kinds of things, and they're thinking and hoping, maybe even assuming that their pastors know who they are. When my secretary was around, I could easily go out and say, who is that person in my office? Or, could you identify the peek in and see if you recognize them? It was really embarrassing at times, because, it was more than just not knowing somebody's name, although that happened a lot. But it was like, what did they tell me the last time we talked? Because sometimes people would just pop their head in and say, gosh, since the last time, let me fill you in. And in my mind, it was like, okay, but I couldn't say that. I couldn't say, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. I don't remember what we talked about. So it was, could be a wedding, could be a funeral. But I started noticing that as a problem. And I also noticed that by the middle of the week, I couldn't remember what I'd spoken about in church just days before. I became obsessed with writing every single thing down that I was doing during my week, everything, every call I made, every letter I wrote, every meeting I was supposed to go to, because I was dropping things, not on purpose, but really having problems. I went to my doctor and started going to see a lot of different specialists to see if they could help me figure out what was going on, because something was going on. And of course, I saw so many different people and had so many different tests that cost lots of money. But there were docs who were really trying, but maybe menopause. I was of that age. Could be a thyroid problem. Could have been a brain injury that I had. That I had a lot of different. There were a lot of different possibilities, but I eventually moved to a new town, to a new pastorate, and my cognitive problems moved with me. Imagine that. And so again, I told the folks at this new church I was at in Waverly, the southern tier of the state, that I was having some problems. And I used to study the photo directory at night to try to learn the people's names in the church, because I didn't want to have a repeat of some of the things I was experiencing in my previous church. But it all came to a head one day when I was going to the cemetery to do a funeral for a family. We were meeting in the cemetery, and I couldn't find the cemetery. I didn't remember the name of the deceased. It was just a mess. But that set me for more testing and another round of what they call neuropsychological tests. For those who maybe have had them, they're hours long. They're looking at the different domains of your brain. And when I sat down with my doctor, I finally had a diagnosis after 8 years of trying to find a diagnosis, a reason for my problems. And I was told I had amnestic, you hear that, amnesia, amnestic mild cognitive impairment due to Alzheimer's disease. My mom had Alzheimer's at that time. Her only brother had Alzheimer's. Their mother, my maternal grandmother, had some sort of dementia. Back then we called it senility. So it wasn't a surprise, but it was a huge sadness. And I couldn't do the job that I was called to do because I couldn't remember my people and what they'd shared with me. So while there's some jobs that you could adapt easily and have maybe take on lesser duties, not so in the pastorate, because I was on every single committee of the church, everything from finance to property, to meeting with our deacons, the people who went out and did visiting. I had to keep all those details in my brain, and I was always getting confused. And after talking to the doctor about this diagnosis, the best course of action was for me to step down. And that was really hard. But I had to move out of the church's housing, which was a challenge. Imagine getting a diagnosis and then having to move out. Well, you've moved, you know what a hassle it is. But moving to a new community where I didn't know anybody, I lived alone. And so it's really hard to make friends when you can't remember names and faces. And sometimes people would make jokes with me, like, oh yeah, hey, we met, you lent me $20, haha, I'll take it back now. Not funny, but it was a poor attempt at reaching out. I went to an 8-week class sponsored by the Alzheimer's Association. I figured if I had Alzheimer's, if this was due to Alzheimer's disease, I'd better figure out more about Alzheimer's disease. And I sat in the parking lot the first day of the class and I cried because I just was overwhelmed with sadness. But my mom always said, you think you're the only person in the world who has problems, kind of that pick yourself up by the bootstraps mentality and get in there and stop focusing on what you can't do, but how you can still make a difference. So when that 8 weeks was over, I offered my help to the Alzheimer's Association, served on the local advisory board, went on to serve on the national board. And that launched me kind of into a whole new chapter in my life called advocacy. And it has been such a blessing to me to become involved in DAA and other organizations, to serve on national committees with researchers and scientists who are in this with us together as searching for a cure, searching for treatment, searching for interventions.
Cynthia, why don't you kind of let us know all of the groups and stuff that you're associated with and kind of the work that they're doing. You're one of the busiest people that I know.
I am. I like being busy. We had a kind of a mantra in our family, or a family understanding. Everybody had a job and everybody also had to volunteer. Those were just, there were no exceptions to that rule. Once you turned 16, you had to work and also volunteer. So I carried that into my career. And right now I'm on, as I said, a member of the DAA advisory board. I just finished up a couple of years working with the National Academy of Sciences on 2 different projects. One was a decadal study, which was looking forward to 10 years of research in the dementia area. I'm now serving on NACA, the National Advisory Council on Aging. It's kind of like alphabet soup. That's the group that grants researchers funds for their projects. Before that, I was on NAPA, the National Alzheimer's Project Act, which is a group that was convened to look at Alzheimer's and dementias care and services and support. So I've really appreciated getting involved in that. I'm on a couple other committees, one on nomenclature, how we label this myriad of diseases, and how what we call something makes a difference, and the stigma associated with certain terms. So I think that research part is like a little heartbeat for me. It keeps me going, but I'm a lifelong learner. I was telling you before the show, I love going to Elmira College. I was there this morning I'm taking a class. This is my 40th class at Elmira College since I moved to Elmira in 2011. I just went into the college and I introduced myself to the dean of students, and I asked if I could audit classes. And I kind of told her about my diagnosis and that things were uncertain at that point. And she said, welcome. And so 40 classes later, I've had everything from ice skating to children's literature to epidemiology. I took 4 semesters of French. I just love learning. I don't remember squat, but I do like being in the classroom. One of the things that really has caught my attention since my diagnosis was a greater involvement in the arts. I've always loved to sing. I play the guitar. I've sung in a choir. I'm in a country rock band and was nominated for the New York State Country Music Hall of Honor. And then I was given that honor a couple of years ago, whenever that was. But I started taking some classes in painting and in arts. And so I wanted to show you some of the things I've done. Not that they're any great works of art, but they're lots of fun, just kind of painting classes. And we did one last week, a collage class where we're working with tissue paper and just glue and just the enjoyment, the relaxation. And then lately, my most recent project is painting with coffee. That was, all I have is instant coffee and a paintbrush. And so, it's just something relaxing to do. And I like to stay busy. And so I can do that. And it doesn't, it's just kind of a nice way to unwind.
Wow, I never knew about the painting is amazing. A friend of ours, Mike Belleville, he picked up painting after his diagnosis. Those masks, Cynthia, I had no idea. And to write a book and have them in a place like Stock, that is amazing. I know that.
Pretty amazing. I was like, yeah. Who took it? AARP, my friend Sarah Locke. She was going there to the conference, Dementia 10 conference in Stockholm. And she said, could I take 10 of your masks with me? And I was just so honored.
Wow.
And they gave out my book to all the attendees, which was an extra honor.
Wow. I know that as busy as you are, you live by yourself.
Yes.
Can you kind of go through how you accept the challenges of living by yourself and staying so busy?
Oh my gosh. Well, part of it is living by myself. It is what it is. So if I don't take out the trash, it doesn't get taken out. If I forget to pay a bill, I get a reminder or a phone call, but I try to set up 2 things, a safety net for myself. And when I moved here, I created a circle of support. And that's something I think we all need to do, because especially if we live alone, who is that person, if you're not feeling well, who will take you to the hospital? Who is that person who will help you change a light bulb that you can't reach? I was thinking about different people that I would call upon for different things. The person that might stop at the pharmacy and pick up a prescription for me if I didn't feel well enough to do that, to come up with a list of those people and to engage them. They're part of my team. And then to do everything I could to set up visual reminders of what I was going to plan to do that day. So I have a bench. If you think of it like a church pew, that's what I do. I lay out the days of the week. So, if I'm going to go swimming, my swimming bag is at that on the Monday or Tuesday, whatever today is. And then today I wanted to remember to vote. So I have everything piled up, and then I come up with a list of what my day is going to look like, and then I make sure I write it down and I carry it with me. And then I check off everything. I ask for extra reminders from the doctor's offices. I want to have at least 3 reminders the week before, the day before, the morning of. And they're really good about that. When I just explain that I don't want to miss the appointment, but I'm living with early stage Alzheimer's. And that's always been interesting too, because some providers, are give me a little pushback. maybe that's happened to you too. Well, you sure don't look like it. You don't sound like it. And so part of it is that, that annoyance of having to defend my diagnosis, as if, I don't know, it's just a little bit crazy making at times, but I think it comes from a place of I don't want to use the word ignorance because that's kind of cruel, but if people just have never met anybody in the early stages, how would they know what we're capable of living a life of joy and service? I think sometimes people just go to the end stage right away. You walk into the doctor's office and you walk out, it's all doom and gloom, and go see your attorney and get your house in order, and we'll see you in 6 months. As opposed to connecting with an organization like DAA. What are we going to do today? Oh, there's this class or that class, or we could give this talk, or we could check on this. There's lots of things. But I don't have anybody here to tell me I can't do those things. And I think some families work that way, that out of an abundance of caution and love, Chuck, you go sit down, we'll take care of everything. And what happens is, I've seen it as a pastor, is kind of a learned helplessness. If you've never been, you're not paying your bills, you're not cooking, you're not choosing what you're wearing. You're just, it's just sad. And so sometimes just talking to care partners about ways to engage their loved one with dementia just opens up a whole new possibility for a happier life together.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I've seen it a lot where I call it that the people are doing all the wrong things for the right reason.
Yeah.
Do it out of love. It's not something, but especially when you get into even different cultures, they want to surround the person with safety. And sometimes you have to let that person kind of out and about for them to have the confidence to accept things. Now, this might be hard. You've done so many things. What do you think? I know you have kids, and we'll kind of set that off to the side because we know kids are number one. But what is your greatest accomplishment?
Oh gosh, I don't like the word accomplishment so much, but because I just feel so blessed by all the experiences that I've had in my life. I mean, just the people who've taught me, the people who have spent time with me. I mean, I just think of all the jobs I've had along the way, and the times where I've learned the most are the times where I've messed up. I think many people will have that experience. I think certainly being in the ministry and being able to be with others in their times of joy and their times of sorrow has been a huge blessing, a huge joy in my life, because I'm led into times where many people don't venture, they're not invited in, to be at somebody's bedside as they're taking their last breath, or to be one of the first people to hold a newborn baby, to give that baby a blessing. So it's not an accomplishment, it's more like it's a blessing. So that's how I think of life, not so much as one certificate over another certificate, which one has more weight, but all the people who've taught me. And we just celebrated All Saints Sunday. On Sunday, we talked about who are the people that made it easier for you to see God. The people who've been part of my life have modeled that, have showed me the joy of service. My own mother, who took us to church every week and shared her faith with us, and to be able to help others on their faith journey as well as on their dementia journey.
Yeah, I should have used a different term than accomplishments. I know you've done so much and you've helped so many people. I just want people to understand how you as a person, we can't do things by ourselves. Even people without, dementia, it takes a lot of people, and to be empowered by the people around us, I think is as you would say, I think that is our biggest blessing that we have right now. And still be able to do things.
It's really cool when somebody has come back and told me that I encouraged them to do this and they did it, and look at, to be able to be part of that person's journey. That they carry a little of me in their hearts and I carry them in my heart. And what could bring you more joy? But being a grandmother is number one.
Exactly.
And a mom.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. That was at the top.
My last question, I ask it to every person that comes on.
Okay.
If this is the first video somebody sees, after that, you explained it very well, that complicated diagnostic procedure that we go through, what would you tell them?
Oh, I would tell them that you're the same person leaving that doctor's office as you were going in. And life brings us challenges, life brings us changes, and we can focus on the things that we've lost, the things that are no longer possible for us, or we can dare to focus on making a difference and looking for new ways of finding joy in life. And we don't know what's ahead for any of us, but to when we're a blessing to others, when we help others, we help ourselves. And so one of the things I always encourage people to do is to find a place to stay connected, whether it be your faith community or a volunteer opportunity, service group, that there's many ways that we can continue to give, and don't define ourselves by the diagnosis in terms of what we can't do, but how we can still make a difference. And you've got a community of people who are right with you, walking right beside you. We're here to help. DAA is here to help.
Cynthia, I want to thank you so much. This has probably been one of the most interesting ones that I've had the pleasure of doing. So thank you for taking the time. I know how busy you are. So just thank you so very much for taking the time and talking with me.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you all for tuning in. And Chuck has my contact information if I can be of assistance to anybody. But God bless you all. Namaste, and have a beautiful day.
All righty. I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank DAA for their support on behalf of This Dementia Life. I want to thank you for joining us today. You can view other podcasts on daanow.org. Please join us again to meet the most inspiring and amazing people on This Dementia Life. I'm proud to be the host, Chuck McClatchy. And remember, the brain may forget, but the heart remembers. We'll see you next time on This Dementia Life.